Guys, welcome to my very first video on the Naturally Minded YouTube channel. I'm super excited to be showing you how I make my milk and oatmeal or milky suds bath bomb. So I'm super excited about this recipe. I was really nervous because the mix came out way more wet than I thought it was going to. So I was really nervous about how they were going to turn out, being that I live in Florida and it's humid and moisture needs to not be super present in my bombs, otherwise they just crumble. So I was really nervous, but they turned out amazing. So if you'd like to see how I made my milky suds bath bombs, then just keep watching. Alrighty guys, so we're just gonna go ahead and start with some baking soda and get that measured out. Just your basic 2-part baking soda to 1 part citric acid. And I'm just getting the clumps out. I'm not sifting this recipe like I normally do. So I was just trying to make sure that I got all the balls out of the citric acid. That's the word I'm looking for. So once that's all good and measured out, we're going to go ahead and move on to the powdered milk. Alright, and next up is the oatmeal. Now you can literally see that this is just Quaker oatmeal. You can purchase pre-powdered oatmeal, but quite honestly I prefer to just use the Quaker oats and grind it up myself in a food processor. Now I'm just going ahead and taking all of my dry ingredients and making sure that they're all mixed in really well before I add the wet ingredients into it. So I've got all the dry combined, and I'm going to go ahead and get all of the wet combined before I put them together. So now that I've got the workspace clear, I just went and grabbed the wet ingredients. Right now I'm combining essential oils for the fragrance. It is a combination that I hadn't used very much in a bigger quantity, like outside of my diffuser. So I'm just testing it out, adding as needed, making sure that I get the measurements right, but making sure that the smell is also really good. So took a little bit to get that together. Now that my essential oil mixture is all figured out, I'm going to continue adding in the rest of the wet ingredients. Next up being the sweet almond oil. So after we've got the sweet almond oil all measured out, we're going to go ahead and add polysorbate 80. Now the polysorbate 80 is just going to make sure that the oil and the water can actually mix together without that greasy feeling, and it's also going to make sure that the person who's using the bath isn't going to get out and realize that their tub is covered in oil. After that, we're going to go ahead and add the distilled water and some 91% isopropyl alcohol. So the water or rubbing alcohol, or both in this case, are basically going to act as a binder to keep your bath bomb held together well and nice and hardened. Some people will spray their mix once it's already been combined together with the wet ingredients with rubbing alcohol or water or witch hazel or whatever type of binder that they choose to use. In this case, I went ahead and mixed it in with my oils just to try a different way of doing it, see what my result was like. Now I am in Florida, so it is really humid here, so anything I can do to make my bath bombs harder will definitely be done. Now I'm just going ahead and mixing up the wet ingredients with the dry. As you saw, all of the oils and the water and the alcohol and all of that good stuff got mixed up really well, and then was added to my powder mix. Just mixing that up really well, scraping out the last of the oil out of the container, and making sure that everything is really well incorporated, that there's no dry spots, there's no powdery spots, and also testing that mix out to make sure that it's not too wet, it's not too dry, etc. Now that everything is all mixed up really well, I'm laying out drying trays. I picked up these trays at Walmart. It's a 2-pack for 98 cents, you can't beat it. And I just cut up a towel so that they wouldn't get flat on one side while they're drying. Gives them a little bit of cushion. And I don't know why I laid out so many trays. I swear that I thought that this batch was bigger in my mind, but that's okay. So now we're gonna just go ahead and build the bath bomb. I put some oats on the bottom just to give it something cute and extra. And I'm overfilling each side of my mold and just smushing them together. Now when I did this first one, I realized that I did not overfill them enough. My batter was still pretty wet. So you can see here in a second, I'm gonna start fiddling with it. Like, wow, that is really wet. So I was going to throw it back in, and I just figured, you know, as I keep messing with it, it'll dry out a little bit more. So I was just going to keep going and see what happens. So knowing that my batch is a little bit more wet than I'm used to working with, I'm just making sure to really overfill the ends so that when they start falling down, I still get enough to form a really healthy bath bomb. So I'm just overflowing each side and smushing them together. Now when I first started making bath bombs, a lot of the makers that I was watching would twist the bath bombs, and I was noticing that my bath bombs just were not coming out as nicely as others. So I kept researching and trying different things, and eventually I realized it was because I was twisting my bath bomb molds, and that's what was causing them to break apart or crack. So instead of twisting them to fit onto each other, I just smush them straight on with as much pressure as I can muster. After that, the process is pretty much the same thing over and over again. I'm going to go ahead and add some oats, overfill both sides of the molds, and smush them together to get that nice, beautiful bomb shape. And set them out to dry. And voila, this is what they look like up close, fresh out of the molds. I'm going to go ahead and put them aside for 12 hours, and we will be back to check on them in the morning. So there you have it, guys. That is how I make my Milky Suds bath bombs. I'm so thrilled with how they turned out, because when the batter was wet, I was really nervous that they were not going to come out very good. But they were amazing. As you can see in the tub test, they floated beautifully. They had really nice fizz. And the water was not super greasy, not super oily, which I was a little bit nervous about because I did use quite a bit of essential oil in it. But it smells wonderful. It behaved beautifully, and I'm just really excited to add it to the collection. So the Etsy shop link will be down in the description box below. If you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment. If you found anything useful in this video or enjoyed what you were watching and are excited to see more, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join the Nationally Minded Co family. And I will catch you guys in the next one.